Yo, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Adamoose, and today we're going to be continuing our series called In Depth. This video is going to be a Season 11 in-depth guide on Elise Jungle.
I know what lurks in the shadows.
In the in-depth series, I'll be breaking down what exactly makes Elise such an amazing champion and how to master her kit. We will be covering her abilities, combos, runes, items, jungle clear, her strengths, weaknesses, and some final tips and tricks to make sure that you can start getting some serious LP gains on Elise Jungle. If you do enjoy this video, it would really help me out if you could leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. If you want to join the community to talk with other players looking to improve, join the Discord link in the description. Hope you guys can learn something. Enjoy the video. Abilities. First things first, let's hop into Elise's abilities and how you can use her kit to its full potential. To start off, Elise's R is called Spider Form. This makes Elise very unique as it allows her to transform into her spider form at level 1. In human form, Elise has a unique set of abilities and ranged auto attacks. When transforming into spider form, you trade off your ranged autos for extra movement speed, melee autos, new abilities, and a spiderling swarm that will attack your foes. Keep in mind that both forms serve very different purposes, and mastering when to change forms is the single most important thing to understand about her kit, since she technically has 6 abilities. Elise's passive is called Spider Queen. In human form, whenever you hit an enemy with an ability, a dormant spiderling will be stored up. These dormant spiderlings will be unleashed when switching into spider form. Her passive also buffs her spider form auto attacks to deal bonus damage and heal on hit. Keep in mind that every time you put a point into your R, your human and spider form bonuses will all increase. This means that you can store up more spiderlings, deal more magic damage, and heal more in your spider form. This may not be very flashy, but it greatly increases your overall power throughout the game. Elise's Q is called Neurotoxin and Venomous Bite. Elise fires out a toxin that deals magic damage based on how high the target's health is. The higher HP that they have, the more damage that it'll deal. This is usually what you want to open up a combo with. In spider form, Elise lunges at the enemy, dealing damage based on how low their health is. Seeing a trend? If there are any spiderlings or volatile spiderlings nearby, they will dash alongside Elise towards Venomous Bite's target and prioritize them. It's extremely important to understand that in human form, you're looking to open up, and in spider form, looking to execute. This not only goes for clearing your camps, but also in fights. Elise's W is called Volatile Spiderling and Skittering Frenzy. Elise summons an untargetable explosive spider towards the target location. This spider explodes upon contact or at the end of its lifespan, dealing AoE magic damage. If the spider does not hit an enemy before reaching its target location, it will gain movement speed chasing the enemy, and this prioritizes champions. As mentioned earlier, using your Q, Venomous Bite, will also force your volatile spiderling to jump to your target, which allows you to pull off some really cool, unexpected combos. Skittering Frenzy passively provides Elise with bonus attack speed. When activated, Elise gains a burst of even more attack speed that lasts for 3 seconds. This is also an auto attack reset, which not many people know about. Keep in mind that switching into human form after activating Skittering Frenzy will cancel the effect immediately. Elise's E is called Cocoon and Repel. Elise fires a web in the target direction, stunning and revealing the first enemy hit. This is Elise's only form of CC, so it's extremely important to land. Getting as close as possible before throwing out your E will help quite a bit since the projectile is a bit slow. In an ideal world, setting up out of vision is the best way to lock an enemy down and burst them down before they know what hit him. Repel is a very unique ability which allows Elise to lift up with her spiderlings in the air, becoming unable to act and granting vision of the area for the duration. If cast on an enemy, Elise and her spiderlings land on the target. Your Spider Queen bonuses also increase shortly after casting your E, which means for a short amount of time, you'll be extremely powerful. This ability is a great gap closing tool and is also the main reason why Elise is so strong at tower diving. Taking turret aggro, bursting the enemy down, and using Repel to drop the turret aggro is a great way to really punish enemies under tower with very little risk. Runes. Next up, let's talk about rune setups for Elise in Season 11. The main two options being run by most Elise players is either Electrocute or Dark Harvest. Electrocute provides more upfront damage and early game prowess, while Dark Harvest provides a bit less burst but with more scaling and also can be procced multiple times in a fight. There is no 100% right choice, but one thing to note is that a lot of the high elo Elises I've done research on are running Dark Harvest since the versatility and scaling are better. To close out the domination tree, Cheap Shot, Eyeball Collection, and Relentless Hunter are the standard choices. Cheap Shot is the prime rune to help with bursting a cocoon target. Keep in mind that even if you don't land your cocoon, red buff also grants the additional damage. Eyeball Collection is a no-brainer, since the extra damage is always great on an assassin like Elise. Relentless Hunter is by far the best option, since movement from lane to lane is extremely important on Elise. Your main goal is to be making plays around the map, and this rune allows you to do that even more effectively. Lastly, Zombie Ward is an option in Elo's Masters Plus, but in lower Elos, people don't ward enough for it to be worth it. For secondary, there are also two main options, Sorcery and Precision. In Sorcery, Nimbus Cloak and Water Walking is the standard. Nimbus Cloak allows you to get a burst of movement speed when jumping on a target and smiting them. Water Walking is just all around great for Elise's river dueling and skirmishing. For Precision, Triumph, Legend Alacrity, and Coup de Grace are the main options. In my opinion, Triumph and Legend Alacrity are the best choices. Triumph is a perfect fit since you're looking to burst someone down and get out, not to mention that it helps a lot with tower diving. Legend Alacrity is really strong all around on Elise and is quite underrated. The extra attack speed helps with your clear speed, and Elise does benefit a lot from the attack speed for extra magic damage and healing in fights. Coup de Grace is another option that's viable since Elise is looking to burst down low HP targets. Legend Alacrity is better in most cases, but Coup de Grace can work into extremely squishy teams. Now that we've discussed the most common rune options, I also wanted to mention Conquer and Press the Attack. Both of these setups are pretty strong in the right situation. Conquer with Nashor's Toothrush is a cool build that allows you to be a tank shredder. Press the Attack can be viable as well for more upfront single target damage. Although the other setups are better in most cases, running the Precision setups into heavy tank and bruiser team comps could be very strong as well. Items. Now that you have Elise's main rune pages, let's discuss her optimal item builds for Season 11. Starting items. First off, Blue Smite versus Red Smite. Blue Smite is great into squishy mobile team comps, and you think you'll be needing an extra tool to gap close against the enemy squishies. Red Smite is a great option if you're looking to duel against bruisers and tanks. The damage reduction and true damage is great with Elise's kit, since your single target damage is extremely high already. This lets you win out on most 1v1 fights to the death. For boots, Sorcerer's Shoes are by far the best option. In certain extreme cases where the enemy team is full AD or full AP with CC, you can also pick up Plated Steel Caps or Merc Treads. Sorc Boots are also the ideal early game buy since they not only give you the much needed magic pen, but the movement speed aids in Elise's gank heavy playstyle quite a bit. If at any moment you have a spare 350 gold, Dark Seal is extremely important to pick up since it will allow you to heavily snowball the game if you start picking up some early kills. For Mythics, Night Harvester is the go-to choice in most games. When looking at all the high elo Elises, Night Harvester seems to be their main choice. Their only other option would be Hextech Rocket Belt. Rocket Belt is a viable option into full squishies since the flat magic pen really adds up in the later game. For core items, Zhonya's, Lichbane, Morello, and Medjai's are the main options. Zhonya's is a much needed defensive tool so that you don't get one-shotted after a burst combo. Lichbane is great for pure burst damage and movement speed. Morellonomicon is the pickup versus heavy healing team comps, and Medjai's if you're snowballing and picked up some stacks on an early Dark Seal. If you're running Conquer or Press the Attack, Nashor's Tooth can be a first item rush that allows you to become an on-hit monster. Keep in mind that without that rune setup, Nashor's is not the best option since it's very expensive. To close out your build, there are a couple different options, so I'll list them out here. Demonic Embrace for extra tankiness, Banshee's Veil for magic resist and a shield, Void Staff for magic pen against heavy magic resist, Rylai's to stick to targets against mobile teams, and Death Cap if you're insanely fed in the late game. Jungle clears. Before we hop into Elise's jungle routes, let's go over some general tips on how to play out Elise in different stages of the game. Elise tips. First off, Elise thrives at early game ganking and tower diving. With this in mind, this should be your main focus when planning your early pathing. Always look out for volatile lanes that are easily gankable, or low HP targets who you can dive. To build on top of this, Elise is very unique in the fact that she really does not want to prioritize farming at all. It's normal to fall behind in CS, so do not worry. Your goal is to make use of your early playmaking kit to build leads through aggressive plays while the enemy jungler is farming. Vision control is extremely important since you're looking to find creative gank angles. Using your Oracle's lens in combination with control wards is very important to clear out vision around certain lanes and gank paths. The difference between an Elise cocoon from Fog of War compared to On Vision is absolutely massive. When ganking, starting off in human form with red buff is the ideal scenario. Applying the red buff slow with your ranged auto attacks will allow you to close the distance and land your E with ease. Keep in mind that if you're tower diving, you can dodge tower shots with a well-timed repel and also jump to enemy minions outside of tower range. This means that it's usually best for you to tank turret aggro since you can drop it so easily. On the topic of E escapes, you can also use your repel to escape the blast plants, Scryer's Bloom, and jungle monsters. This can lead to some pretty unexpected escapes if the enemy is not aware of this interaction. Although Elise does somewhat fall off late game, this is mainly because her team fighting is bad. You'll still be able to one-shot the enemy carries if you get an opening. When it gets to the late game, flanking and sneaky positioning is key to assassinate enemy backline carries. Picking off one separated enemy member can instantly turn a game in your team's favor. When selecting a target you want to burst down, always make sure to scan through the enemy's defensive items. Stopwatches and hex drinkers can really ruin your day if you're not wary. Now for actual jungle routes. Elise is one of the most set-in-stone junglers in the current meta. Since your clearing is so slow, farming side by side other meta junglers is a way to ensure that you will fall behind. This is why the level 3 rush is by far the most optimal path. This involves clearing both buffs and Gromp to hit level 3 and instantly looking to either gank or invade. The other option is to full clear one side of your jungle and then gank. This is another version of the 3 camp clear, just leaving out your other buff and only clearing one quadrant of the map. Knowing where to path towards and at which timings you can make successful plays happen is where the skill comes into play. Expert Elise players will find such slim kill angles that you wouldn't even think it would be possible. It's also important to try and get at least one scuttle, since Elise does kill the scuttle pretty quickly. When creating your early game plan, examining lane matchups, minion wave states, and the enemy's jungle path are all extremely important factors to keep in mind. Focus on volatile lanes that are easy to gank, whether your team has gank setup or the enemy has no escape tool. If you burn enemy summoners and get an advantage, make sure to continue to snowball and completely crush that lane. If pulled off correctly, Elise is one of those junglers that will have the enemy laners spam pinging their jungler before they even have the chance to play the game. Weaknesses. Elise's biggest weakness is her slow clearing speed. She makes up for this in many different ways, but as an isolated skill, she's not a great farmer. Always keep this in mind, as AFK farming your jungle is the worst possible thing that you can be doing. Don't get me wrong, you still do need to farm sometimes, but looking at your lanes to find opportunities should always be your main focus. Secondly, Elise also does struggle into very long range comps with escape tools. Especially in later game situations, Elise not having targets easily available to pick off will make her job much harder. It takes an advanced Elise player to still find kill angles even when the enemy team is long ranged and playing safe. Lastly, since Elise does have a pretty high skill cap, this is definitely a weakness for new Elise players, since learning her limits will take some time. She has 6 abilities, and mastering how to use them all perfectly is something that will only come with experience. To add on to her mechanical difficulty, learning how to close out games without making mistakes is something that every Elise player will need to learn to climb. It's not enough if you go 10-0 if you give up a 1k gold shutdown. Elise requires precision, since any mistake can make the game extremely hard for you. Focus on dragons, heralds, and towers to ensure that your team is in as good of a spot as possible by the time the mid to late game comes. Strengths. And finally, let's discuss some of the reasons why Elise has been such a great champion in the meta for years. First off, her ganks and tower dives are unmatched. This is the core of Elise's playstyle and what you want to be focused on at all times. Starting from level 3, every champion on the map must be scared of your presence. This not only affects the enemy laners, but also the enemy jungler. It's a nightmare playing versus a good Elise, since she'll be diving your laners and completely tilting your team while you're still just farming your camps. This is also why she is such a great solo queue champion. Elise thrives at punishing enemies' mistakes, and let me tell you, solo queue is pretty much just 10 people constantly making mistakes. Something as small as a bad trade bot lane can lead into a tower dive and the enemy being down 3 minion waves. Elise is also great at controlling objectives, since her single target damage is very high. She can also use her spider links to tank dragon and herald as well. This is very important, since after making a play, securing as many objectives as possible is necessary to close out games. Lastly, and this is mainly just my opinion, but Elise is actually such a well-balanced champion. Her playstyle is very defined and has been for years. She's not completely overpowered, but not weak either. She has clear weaknesses such as farming, and clear strengths such as ganking. Mastery on the champion is very rewarding, but picking her up is not that hard either. Adding Elise to your champion pool is a great way to improve your ganking awareness, early game aggression, and learning how to snowball a game. That will do it for my in-depth guide on Elise Jungle. If you stayed until the end and have any questions or opinions, be sure to leave them in the comments below. If you did enjoy, it helps me out so much if you could like the video and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell if you want to stay up to date with my posts. I try to post high quality educational league content, and I'll be cranking out more in-depth guides just like this one on every Wednesday. If you're interested in joining the community of like-minded players looking to improve, be sure to join the Moose Den Discord. The link will be in the description. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Until the next video, peace out.